15 seconds.
Even if all things enumerated above are favorably placed, there still remains the need for enlightened and committed leadership. Your own experience in 1963 amply fortified what I want to say now. At the point of time, India was very fortunate to have been led into experimenting with imported seeds and technology by a very brilliant, adventurous, and confidence inspiring team. Mr. C. Subramaniam was then the Union Minister of Agriculture, but he by himself could have achieved precious little if the bureaucracy led by the secretary, Mr. Sivaraman, had not supported him to the hilt with his well digested briefs. But both of them still would have perhaps been inadequately of India's most far seeing scientist, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, were not there to relate the available research and information with the desirability of taking such an initiative. All the three persons from the south stood true and firm in taking the most unwelcome decision of importing 18,000 tons of Mexican seed in 1966, even if each one of them could have lost his head in the bargain. It was a show of administrative drive and political will at their best. There were many more friends who contributed their might to the success of the wheat revolution in India in no insignificant a manner. Happily, I can place many of them beaming smiles at me in this august audience. I compliment them on having participated in this high drama at a momentous period in the history of the nation. For it is not so simple to manage to import new technology, particularly in the traditional societies such as India. But it is the illiterate farmer who did the trick with such an ease. Let me here remind my listeners that it is not the scientist but the farmer that finally produces the food. Not that the role of scientist in not important but the new technologies produced by them have got to be demonstrated to the actual producers, which means the farmers before they are able to translate dreams into realities. And even demonstration can prove counterproductive if the package does not have the backing of proper economic and political policies. Hence, a good amount of homework has to precede the actual change in agricultural practices. But the results so far have been more than encouraging, and we hope they shall be better. Now I turn to my experience in Africa. Most academicians and intellectuals from the affluent nations were asking, could the Indian or Pakistani or Mexican experience be replicated in the dark continent? Africa is socially and culturally so different, so backward, not yet exposed to modern ideas of mobility and innovation. But it was worth trying. We started with a small transfer of technology in respect of soya and maize 4 years ago. The research in this case had come from inefficient fertilizer industry. That is true of most branches of Indian industry, but we have to live with it. We cannot overnight get away from a highly protected, from the inefficient industrial structure. We have to gradually subject the industry to greater competition, both domestic competition and foreign competition. We cannot afford to kill our industry, because if you kill that industry, the farmers would be the sufferers. And that is why we have this new strategy which seeks to reduce the level of protection given to industry. If that strategy works out, you might see in this country for the first time a most emphatic program seeking to bridge the gap between the rural and urban divide. This urban rural divide cannot be bridged by giving hands out to agriculture or the farmers in our country. Now another question was raised whether this will lead to a decline in production. My answer is that under normal condition this is not likely to happen. Several questions were asked. I think honorable member asked about the fraud of rupees 100 crores. I do not know anything about it. If my honorable colleague, the Minister of Agriculture, knows something about it, I would request him to supplement. He also referred to the lacuna in the fixation of retention prices. I take note of his concern. I will have it conveyed to the Honorable Minister of Fertilizers as well the suggestion that there ought to be a parliamentary committee to look at the whole system. Then one last question whether we are cutting subsidies or we are cutting expenditure as such. Sir, I mentioned in my budget speech that we are now in the process of cutting expenditure, wasteful expenditure wherever it exists. We have cut at one go the export subsidy worth rupees 3000 crores. We have also reduced subsidies in a number of areas. We have also begun a process of looking at all administrative expenditure. I have asked all the ministries of the Government of India to prioritize their activities. I am hoping that by 31st August this work will be completed. An honorable lady member said that there are no big farmers now and that if you have details of small and marginal farmers, you let us know. We do have, madam, details of small and marginal farmers. We also know what is the amount of area under cultivation by small and marginal farmers. We do have separate schemes for small and marginal farmers. Therefore, while there may be administrative problems, I do not believe there will be serious problems in implementing the schemes that we have. Now, I think honorable member on this side, while quoting some of the statement which I must have made in my earlier period, said that the subsidy did not go to the farmers. Now I think it is quite true that because our fertilizer industry is not as efficient as elsewhere, and also because the input price in our country is not as low as in many other countries. The price of natural gas for various reasons is much higher than the price of natural gas in other countries. For all these reasons, the price of domestic fertilizers is higher than the price of imported fertilizers.